Have her margarita if she wants it. Don't record. You're not recording it, are you?
I did record it, but it's okay. They all know I'm ready for one.
Okay. Sorry. It's like
they'll get, everybody that's watching on the recorded channel will get a laugh right about now.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen again and find my other presentation. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Stop share. Where is it? This one. Present. Okay. So my second presentation is there anybody new on here? So I guess I'm getting recorded, right? So I'll start from the very beginning. So hello, my name is Jo Geddes, and I'm from Tates Creek High School in Lexington, Kentucky. And this session is the 21st session of the week. I feel honored to be the caboose. And this is on answering difficult questions in the health education classroom. So first off, let me see here. In the chat, what is your most dreaded question? If a student, like, what is the one that like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this kid just asked me this question. What is your dreaded question that someone might ask you in the classroom?
I'm trying to type.
These are all good. What a slang term means related to sex ed. Have you ever smoked weed? Something related to marijuana. Like my dad smokes it and sells it. Yes.
At the elementary level, we always had the questions that were about puberty that started in 4th or 5th grade that were always that always sparked some difficult conversations to have when certain people knew a lot and other people didn't.
Yes. Did you drink underage? I feel like the high school kids always want to know, did you drink alcohol? Do you smoke weed? What did you do when you were our age? Like, they always want to know like these personal questions. What do you think about? Yes. If their loved ones are alive. Yes. These are great. So we're going to come back to these questions at the end of the session and have you kind of like break down how you would answer your most dreaded question after you learn some tips before throughout the presentation. Okay. So the objectives for this session is to be able to explain the different questions students may ask you, and for you to feel more confident in using protocol for answering questions in a way that affirms the student. So we don't want to ignore the student. We want to be able to affirm the student when he or she asks us questions. So before we get started with all of these protocols, we have like 2 types of values. So one is like the universal value, which is going to be huge when we start answering questions, especially these difficult ones we get from our students. So the universal values are the ones that we share with by most families. They might be written into law or policy, which is that we teach those, like the drinking age is 21. That's a law. It's a law. So we teach that we shouldn't be drinking alcohol until we're 21. Then there's the personal value questions or the personal values. And those are the ones where the community is not on agreement on. And the teacher needs to think, or as we as the teachers need to think very carefully about before we express our personal opinion or belief. So as we get these difficult questions, we have to ask ourselves, is this a universal value question or is this a personal value question? And then I'll give you tips on how to answer those questions. And again, don't be shy. I don't check the chat. I'm really bad about that. So just stop me and ask me a question. Okay, so these are some examples of those universal values. So as a society, a community, we could all agree on that it is wrong to trick, threaten, tease, bully another person. That's a universal value. We teach anti-bullies in our classroom. That we all, society, community agrees that school should be an emotionally safe place. So right now, like all of us are teaching bullying, cyberbullying, etc. Another example is it is safest for students to not use alcohol, opiates, tobacco, heroin, other drugs. So we teach it. We teach like this is what you should not do. These are the effects of alcohol, the effects of opiates, etc. So those are some examples of universal values that we have. So now, and then like the personal values are just like what you think on Plan B, or what's your value on abortion, or what's your value, like what do you believe about should marijuana be legalized? Like those are like personal value, what do you believe questions. So there are 5 major types of questions. There's 5 types, 3 are like the most common, and we're going to play a Kahoot game in just a second. So the 3 types of questions are personal, fact-based, and belief value questions. So personal questions are questions your students might ask you, and the more comfortable your students are with you, they may feel like they can ask you more personal questions, which that is teacher discretion. They might ask you, are you married? They might ask you, do you have kids? They might ask you, what did you do this past weekend? And those are up to you if you want to ask that question. Like if they ask you if you are married, yes, I am married. I'm comfortable answering that question. However, if I was a teacher and let's say my partner just passed away from a battle of cancer a couple weeks ago, I might not be able to answer that question. That would be a very hard personal question to answer. Or maybe I'm going through a really bad divorce right now. That might be a hard question. So it's teacher discretion on whether or not you choose to answer that question. The fact-based questions are the ones that are all based on facts. So a kid might ask you, why do boys have a prostate gland? Or what is the purpose of the uterus? So those are fact-based. The uterus does this. The function of the prostate gland is this. It's all facts. There's no opinions in there. And then there is the belief value-based. And these are what you have to be very careful for how you answer. So if they say, what do you think on the gun control laws? We could say, right, the law is the gun control law is you have to be 21 to own a gun. That's the fact. Then you can say my belief or value it has nothing to do with the law, so we're not going to discuss that right now. And I'll give you tips on this in a minute. But you have to figure out how you're going to answer that, because you don't want to say your own personal opinion, because you can offend other people, which we're going to learn here in a second. Okay, so I'm going to bring up Kahoot. So I made up a Kahoot that is going to go over to have you figure out which types of questions they are. Are they personal? Are they fact-based? Or are they, hold on, let me share my screen again. Are they fact-based, personal, or value-based? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to delete some windows so I have more space. Oh, come on, slow computer. Sorry, it's being slow.
You have almost as many tabs as I do.
I know my students at school make fun of me because they say I have too many tabs open. I wonder if I close some of these out from the last presentation, if it will speed up. I'll try it.
Do you do lots of Kahoots with your kids?
I do. I do Kahoots every day.
We had a Kahoot session earlier in the week that a lot of people enjoyed.
I love them. We meditate, we do Kahoot, then we meditate, and then I start the unit, but that lesson that day. And we have Creek Cash at our school. So I will let them, like the top 3 get extra, I could give them points or Creek Cash. We didn't have Creek Cash this year because of COVID, but I use it to go over like previous content we're learning today, and then future content. And it gets intense. Okay. I don't know why this isn't playing. So I'll just try it. I'm sorry, my Kahoot's not working. So some of the questions that I had were, I'm trying to think of the ones that I had on here. So if a kid said, do you have kids? Which one is that? Is that personal, fact-based, or belief? You can just shout them out since my Kahoot's not working. I put them in the chat. Personal, awesome. Why do boys get circumcised? Oh, it's working. Hold on. I hear it. There we go.
Are we supposed to know how to join this thing?
If you go, Alex and Tracy, if you go to kahoot.it.
Okay.
Yes. You will love this, Alex, if you use it in your classroom. The kids will love it.
I have before, but yeah, I don't know how to do it from Zoom or.
You're good. Go to kahoot.it, and there's the game pin.
Yeah.
And a lot of your students, they can download the app, and they love to do it straight from their cell phones. They can use their cell phone in your classroom. They'll love that too. If you need help, let me know. Did you get it, Alex?
I gotta enter in the thing.
Yay!
I mean, are y'all switching back and forth? Are you half screen one way and half screen the other? Or I think I'm doing it slower than anybody.
I think you did just great.
It doesn't matter.
So for this, I just leave it on the Kahoot right now, and it'll ask you the questions on your Kahoot, and you can answer.
All right, I'm ready.
And what's cool, Alex, is if you like this, it's free for teachers, and then you can like create Kahoots. Like if you do like communication, you know, communication day 1, day 2, day 3, and
Right.
it saves all your Kahoots, and then you can just reuse them every year.
Awesome.
And there's a question bank for tons of questions. You can go and just steal other people's questions. It's kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to start. Okay, types of questions. So question 1, are you married? Is that a personal question, a belief, value-based question, or a fact-based question? Yes, it's a personal question, and you all got it right. I love it. And so far, Nicole is in the lead. So you get points, get more points the quicker you answer the question. I love this good eye master here.
That's me.
Love it. Okay, why do boys get circumcised? Is that a personal question, a fact-based question, or a belief value-based question? Yes, that is a belief value-based. It's actually a tricky one. I like how you have fact-based on there. So why they get circumcised is a belief question, but you can teach the facts of what circumcision is and then go into the belief part, which I want as my example here I'm going to use in a few minutes. And Kara takes the lead. Question 3, how does Plan B work? Personal, belief, value, or fact-based? Yes, that is fact-based. If a kid asked you, is Plan B like abortion, what would that be? Would that still be fact-based, or would that turn into a belief value question?
It
I
would
like
be
it to be
legal.
fact-based. It's not.
It would still be
Yes, you get,
fact-based.
I'm sorry.
You say it would still be fact-based?
I think it depends on how you answer it, because you just tell them the facts. But I think that if we can get into abortion, that's going to be more, you can give the facts, but it's going to be a belief value based and just show the spectrum of that. But I would be careful. Like, abortion is definitely like a belief value part there. Okay. And Frank, you have the highest streak with 3 in a row.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I have to be changing screens. It's not easy. Oh.
Okay, why don't some girls shave their armpits? Is that a personal question, belief, value based, or fact based? So that's more of like a I can see it being personal too. I usually say that's a cultural thing and that's a belief thing for if girls decide to shave their armpits or not. That's always a question I get with my 9th graders.
You jinx me.
Dang, Nicole, look at you.
Why isn't marijuana legalized in Kentucky? Personal, value, belief, or fact based? That is more of a value belief. You can give the facts on marijuana, like what marijuana does, but like why it's not legalized. I mean, it's a law. It's not legal.
Okay.
It's not. The law says it's illegal, but why do I think it should be illegal, or why I think it should be legal is like more of a value. So that's another example where you can give the facts, but just then we can. We're going to show this continuum. Like, what do you believe? But that's like it's a belief question. Kind of like of any drug, if they'll say like, why is the drinking age not 18? Well, the drinking age is 21. These are the facts. What you believe is something different. Does that make sense? The difference there? It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky because there are reasons why it's illegal. I mean, so that is kind of like a fact-based, but yet the law is within opinion, right?
Yes.
I think all should be legal, but they involve too much money. They have to becoming personal for everybody, a personal choice, and then you are not advocating families and schools and everywhere. But then the business is over, and you know how many things are involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just have to be careful. I think you could people could argue everything like you said and make it a belief value in today's society. Next question. Is it safe to masturbate?
Of course it is. And now I think it's more safer than before.
Yes, it's
When-
fact based.
in our generation, it's fact based. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a fact, but remember, I have to transcribe everything on the language, to Spanish, and then it's a process. But before it was a taboo, or something
Oh,
like that. Yeah.
oh yeah. I agree. Like even like in 18 years, it's like,
Hmm.
so this was a great example. Like, is it safe to masturbate? These are the facts. It's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
You just need, don't make it personal, right? You don't say, well, when I was your age, you just say, these are the facts. It's a legit question. And it might make a teacher uncomfortable, but just say the facts, nothing personal. Nicole, you're killing it in this Kahoot game. All right, what is discharge? This is a question I get every single year. Yes, fact-based. This is discharge, etc. Move on. All right, Nicole, no whammies, no pressure. You have one question left to see if you can maintain this lead. Do you have any kids?
Yeah, super personal.
Yes, personal. So then if you're in my class with Kahoots, I would make it rain with Creek Cash. In third place is Kara. Second place is Tracy. And first place, dun, 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 is Nicole. Okay.
Hey, Nicole, if you come to our meetup next week, I'll buy you a drink for that.
Oh, aren't you sweet? That's awesome. Let me exit out of this one. Okay, so that is Kahoot. So then those are like 3 types of questions students might ask you. And then there are 2 more that I get. I try to use questions. These are all questions that my kids ask in my classroom. So the other 2 types of questions we might get are the am I normal questions. So these are questions that students might have because they're curious. That they might be questions that they want affirmed by teachers to make sure that they are okay. And my most common and my normal question is they want to know if it's normal that they have hair on their toes. I mean, it's crazy. I'm like, yes, that is normal to have hair on your papa toe. Sorry, I call it my papa toe, your big toe. That's normal. So you might have those questions. And then you have the slang word questions. And I think someone put that as their dreaded question earlier in the chat. So these questions feel like shock questions. Students are often trying to understand what they have heard. My students are notorious for finding stuff on Urban Dictionary, and then they want to like ask me like, what does that mean? Or like, I mean, there's stuff on that website. We could spend the whole presentation on that, but so you have, but your response, you need to make sure you use the correct terminology. So like the famous slang words is I'll say like, what is pre-cum, or like, what is cum, and all of this. And I just say it's ejaculation fluid. And this is what's in ejaculation fluid. So you just want to use the slang, correct the slang word with the correct terminology when you respond to it. And I usually tell them with the slang words, like once I teach you ejaculation fluid, it is ejaculation fluid the rest of the time. And the word cum is no longer in your vocab in this classroom. So they're trying to like change it that way. And that is also the slang word questions. I mean, there's a ton of stuff on Urban Dictionary if your kids ask you questions, and you might have to tell them when to draw the line. But I would just make sure you replace the slang term with the correct terminology.
I sometimes ask them too, whenever they try and do that stuff, like, where did you hear this? Like, what was it referencing? What song did it come from? You know, because someone like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'll look it up and we can talk about it, you know. But like some of them are things that I'm like, that is completely made up of, you know, whatever. Then I tell them, I'm like, I'll look it up and we can talk about it. What do you think it is? You know, whatever. But I mean, I definitely do the medically accurate. I make them from the get-go use medically accurate terms. So like, I give them 2 minutes in the beginning before we even start this unit. Like, I'm gonna say all the words that I can think of, make you laugh, look at your friends, all that stuff. I was like, and then we're using the real terms. So, get it through your head kind of thing. But yeah, pre-com is definitely a big one. But
Yeah, I do.
there's other things that I'm like, I don't even know what.
I learn new words every year. I use the similar thing, like alpha boxes. I got from an English teacher. It's every letter of the alphabet. And I give them like 5 minutes. And I say, your goal is to write down any word you can think of related to family sexuality. I don't care any words. I just say the only word I don't want to see is the F word. And they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, go for it. So they write, and I'm like, now we're done with the slang words. We're no longer going to use them. But it's amazing of like, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I would just use the, like you said, just use the correct terminology so they know like that. And it's sad because some parents never teach them the correct terminology. So they don't even know that it's a penis. They think it's a little pee-pee or they think it's something else. And it's just like, it's crazy. Okay, so how do students ask questions in your classroom? So go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can say it out loud, whatever is easiest for you. So how do you have students ask questions in your room? Out loud or question jar? Yes. Anyone else? Shout outs, depends on the content, raising hands, question box. Yes. Oh, I like the idea. Bottom of the weekly sheet on a sheet of paper. So these are just some on here. And I think a lot of you already said these in a chat, which is amazing. Question box, raise hand, ask teacher one-on-one. You can email. Everyone turns in a Post-it or an index card. I personally, I have a very open classroom and I have students raise their hand. And then if they think it might cross the line, they write it down and they'll like give it to me as they leave class, or they'll stay after class. But again, I think you have to know your students to know which will work best for you. And it might be trial and error, and what might work for one class might be different for another class. I think it just depends on what works for you. I love how most of you have like this raise your hand and just ask. Class discussion. I love that. It just shows kids are very comfortable with you, which is amazing. That's what we want. Okay, so here's like the protocol for answering those dreaded, awful, difficult questions. So first, we need to affirm the student. So I want to go through all these, and then I'm going to go through them again with an example. You have to ask yourself, is it a belief question? If it's a belief question, if there's any facts to that, we want to answer the facts first, okay? We want to then help the class make this huge continuum of like where all the beliefs could be on this giant arrow if you want to draw it on your board or your whiteboard. Do not express your personal beliefs, which is hard, and unless they are a universal value. So if it's a question on bullying, you can say bullying is wrong, this, and this, but you be very careful there. You can refer them to a trusted adult. You can refer them to their youth group minister, clergy, their counselor. You want to make sure that you ask the student, did I answer your question? And then always leave the door open. So what this is going to look like. So the first one is you want to affirm the student. We don't want to ignore the kid who asks the dreaded question, because we want kids to ask questions. That's how he or she learns, right? So they ask a question like, what is it safe to masturbate? You can say, I'm glad you asked that. Or, I bet a lot of students, a lot of people wonder that as well. So affirm the question for asking it. Don't ignore them. Then after that, we want to ask ourselves, is this a belief question? If it is one, so you can answer, That's a belief question. Many people, families, and religions have different answers. And it might not be a belief question. If it is a belief question, you could say there's a facts part of it. Before we look at the beliefs, let's examine a few facts. Then this is help the class describe the range of beliefs. So you can ask the whole class. So maybe a kid asks a question on gun controls, whatever. Different people believe different things about gun control laws. What do you believe? So now you want to make sure as the educator that you have all of these range of beliefs set up. So you have one extreme, like guns should be legal, everybody should own a gun, or the very extreme, like the NRA is here. And then on the other end, you have like, no, they're awful, all this other stuff. But we need this range of beliefs. And they ask kids, like, where do you go? But where do you believe? But you have to make sure, this is important, that you cover all the different areas on the continuum. If you are anti-gun control laws, like you do not want them, you can't spend 20 minutes talking about how important the NRA is and then only spend 1 minute going over why they should be, why no one should have them. So to make sure you cover the entire spectrum of the beliefs. Make sure you don't express your own personal beliefs, okay? Unless it is the universal value. So you could say, my personal belief is not as valuable to you in your learning as understanding the wide range of beliefs on this topic. So I believe it doesn't matter. Here's just a wide range of beliefs on this topic. I strongly encourage you to not share personal beliefs about controversial topics. But instead give the wide range of beliefs so you don't offend anyone. We live in a world now where a kid can tweet something out and then everybody knows what we said in the classroom. So I would just say just show all the beliefs so no one is offended. Then you can refer the student to family, youth ministers, youth group. You can say, like, since people have such different beliefs about gun control laws, I would encourage you to find out what your families believe. Talk about it with them, who you trust, a counselor, another trusted adult, etc. Ask the student, did I answer your question? They might say yes, they might say no. If they say no, then try to prompt them, like, what part did I not answer? And you might have to go through the steps again. And then you always want to leave the door open. So if you need more information or have other questions, please let me know. So those are like all the steps, okay? So I'm going to go back through the steps using an example of what I get of a belief question that I get every single year. So I have kids and they always want to know about circumcision. I teach 9th graders. So the kid says, why do boys get circumcised? I would affirm the student, little Johnny, and I would say that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. A lot of students wonder about circumcision. I've affirmed the student. I'm giving the kid credit for asking the question. Now I'm going to tell my students that is a belief question about circumcision. Many people, families, and religions have different answers on circumcision. Okay, that's a belief question. What I can tell them is a factual part of circumcision. So before we look at the beliefs, let's examine a few facts. Circumcision is the removal of the foreskin of the penis. Period. That is what it means, right? Then the beliefs. Different people believe different things about circumcision. What do you believe? So I can say circumcision is a cultural ritual. It's common in the Jewish religions and the Islamic families. It's also done in like African tribes. Some people do it as a matter of personal hygiene, as a family tradition, as a way to like prevent infections, prevent healthcare. Some people believe that it's completely unnecessary, and it makes a person disfigured, or like a disfiguration. So they don't think it's necessary at all. So those are the whole wide range of beliefs. What do you believe? So that way I've told them all the different parts of the continuum. I didn't spend any more time on one than the other. And now they can figure out, where do I think? Is it a family tradition? Is it religious? Is it, do I believe that it's not necessary? So you can see, that the kids can see, where do they believe? And then just tell them what I believe is not, it is not necessary about learning about circumcision. And I can say, if you have more, since people have different beliefs about circumcision, I would encourage you to talk to your family. What does your family believe? What does your priest at church believe? Who are your trusted adults in your life? What do they believe? What's your family think about this? And then, did I answer your question? And then, and when it end, if you need more help on this or have more questions on circumcision, just let me know. And usually with this, students will usually say after class with me, or I'll say, see me after class. We can talk more about this topic if you want to still talk about it. And then, so I just watched the Friends reunion. So I'm obsessed right now. I'm back with Friends and Jennifer Aniston and all that stuff. So consider how you respond. So you can tell if it's a challenging question, you could say, that would be very challenging for me to answer right now. And my favorite is just kids that ask the questions, like they'll just randomly raise their hand and say, yo, I saw this thing on Urban Dictionary. What does this mean? And it's like nothing to do with your content. You can just say, that question does not relate to anything we're teaching right now, and move on. When you, I forgot to say this earlier, if it's a factual question and you don't know the answer, don't make something up. Okay. The kids have their phones right here and they will call you out and say, well, Google says this. If you don't know the answer, it's a teachable moment. Just say, I don't know that answer. Let's stop for a moment and look it up. We all have cell phones. You can look up the answer right then and there, or you can say, I will look it up, do my research tonight, and give you the answer the next day. But it's okay to not know the answer. But you definitely don't want to make up an answer, pull it out of the air, because if you teach high school, they will call you out in no time. So consider how you will respond to the questions. Then, so I have this, and Mimi, I will share this with you. I don't know. It's a PDF, and I couldn't put it like in the, like, I couldn't figure, but I'll share this with Mimi so she can give it to you. This is kind of like
Perfect.
a flow chart to break down those difficult questions. And so, like, what is a difficult question? How will you respond by affirming the kid's question? Then you ask yourself, is this a belief question? If it's yes, here's how I would answer it. Or if it's not a belief question, here's how I answer with the facts. If it is a belief question, I'm going to just answer it with these facts. Then I'm going to help the class explore the beliefs by showing that long continuum. Like, you can be in this end of it, you can be in the middle, you can be on this end of it. Encourage them to talk to their family. Ask them to express their own beliefs. Like, what would you say? Have them, did I answer your question? Or maybe you want another system set up to make sure the student's question was answered, and then leave the class open. So I would use this. So if you know that you get the same dreaded question every year, and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid's, and then I'm with this question, I have no idea how I'm going to answer it. And I think the questions, to kind of do like a revolving door, like you have one questions 1 year on one topic, but then go away and they come back. I think it'd be good practice just to kind of like write this down, not like a book or anything, like jot down how you would answer it. So when that question is asked, you're kind of like, you're ready for it. Like, you know, like what you're going to say. So what I was going to do is, if you wanted to, as I know it's Friday, I was gonna let you all practice with your difficult question from the very beginning about how you would break it down to answer that difficult question. But that is pretty much all I have. And there's all my stuff. My Twitter I can't talk. My Twitter handle and my email address, etc. But I think the biggest thing is to not make sure you don't share those personal questions and show that continuum of the beliefs when it is a belief question. And kids can read you. So you don't want to make sure you spend like 15 minutes on one belief. And then if you don't believe in it, you still just spend 15 minutes on the part you don't believe in. You just can't focus on, does that make sense? You have to make sure you show everything and not just one part of it.
So I have learned a great deal in this session because your session was on difficult questions in health, but at my level, I get lots of difficult questions. So this is like my job every day. So this has been money for me.
Well, yeah. That makes me excited. Yeah, so you can use it in any part of the real world. Yeah.
Yeah, because I suck at difficult questions. This is perfect for me. I hope everybody else has enjoyed it as much as I have. I have added a validation question. If you click on that link in the chat box, it will take you to a validation question that you answer, and I will give you your PD credit. That's how we've been doing it all week long. Hopefully by now you know how to do that. What are people's thoughts on this? How do you see this fitting into the work that we're doing this year? How does this fit in with everything?
Are you talking about this session or the whole?
Like, how does this session fit in with how you're going to be teaching this year?
Oh, it just helps. I mean, it's these are things that, I mean, I, as teaching health for 14 years, struggle with, every year we get the same kind of thing. I always want to be better at answering questions and things like that. And I was curious, like, because I always get the same questions. Have you ever? Did you do this? And then, break it down. And sometimes you break it down and it's like, and at the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, well, that's well and good, but have you ever? And you're like, all right, well, I can't answer that for you. And I have to cut it off. Isn't that something that y'all do too? I mean, eventually, sometimes you're just going to be like, I can't answer that. And move on.
Always go to, my job is to just give you the information, let you apply this information to your life. What I've experienced and what I've gone through is different than what you're going to experience, what you're going to go through. So my job is to give you this information so you can make decisions that will hopefully help you live a long, healthy life and move from there. I was like, and just tell them, like, my experiences are not going to be reflective of what you're experiencing. Sorry about the kids.
Yeah, I usually just say, like, that's a personal question. And my job, like Kara said, is just to give you the facts. And then as soon as I say that's a personal question, they go, oh, she smoked weed. Like, they always like assume as soon as I say that, like, she's guilty. And I'm like, I don't really care what a bunch of 14-year-olds think about me. But I just stick to your guns and just say that's a personal question and move on.
Yeah, I always say just, make your own judgments. Oh, so that means you did. Well, if that's what you think. And then I never give them the answer, and it drives them nuts. But that's what you got to do.
Yeah, keep them hanging.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I also, with certain content, such as like if we're talking about marijuana specifically or alcohol or sex ed, I put it out there beforehand that, like, we're not asking each other, and I use everybody in the room personal questions. So, we're not asking each other, have you ever done this? Or what would you do? Or what are you willing to do? And that way it kind of like keeps them from even asking those questions up front. It's been really successful for me.
I like that. Is that part of like your school, like your classroom rules, like from the very beginning, like we're not going to ask personal questions?
Yeah. And I emphasize it with the content that I'm like, uncomfortable asking questions in. So like if they ask me about my personal, like, nutritional beliefs or needs or whatever I do, my diet, like, that's okay. But when it's things that are a little bit more of touchy subjects, I just kind of make it a general rule for everybody.
I like that. Does anybody
Anybody
else have any,
else?
sorry,
No, I was saying the same thing you were.
any other questions? My email is on there, so feel free to contact me if you ever have any questions at all. Don't be shy. I could talk to a brick wall if I had to. But thank you all for letting me come to your all sessions today.
We are super glad that you came. And I know several of the people on here are going to the Kentucky Shape, so they'll be able to hook up with you there. And
Yes,
ask you
I'm
some
doing a
difficult
presentation
questions.
there. So come to my session. I'm doing one with Jessica Napier, and we are tag teaming skills-based health. And I think we're going to focus on like the assessment piece of skills-based health and like rubrics and stuff like that.
Cool, cool. So I'm looking and I see that only 4 people have taken the validation question so far. So if you would, oh, I take that back, there's 5. If you would go ahead and take the validation question for me, that would be super helpful. And if there's nothing else, Joe is going to send me this PDF of this if then what file, and I'm going to sign off for the last time of the week. I'm going to get a haircut this afternoon, and then I'm going to Havana Rumba, and I'm going to have a libation. And I just realized that's on the recording.